Hello everyone, I'm Igor, and today we are talking about Cursor for non-tech people. Cursor is more a tool for developers rather than for non-tech folk. But as I promised, I'll play it the other way. Despite it looked harsh, it's an IDE. Honestly, it makes much more sense rather than Lovable in terms of developing a reliable and sustainable results. Results will be quite the same. What you need to do first is to create a folder and open this folder in Cursor, as I did. Let's keep it on video. It will also require some prerequisites like nodejs and git installation. If you want to know how to do it, send me a direct message to ask. I know that the black screen is scary. To fix it, we open chat with the agent and to do a magic prompt to make something lovable out of Cursor. Okay, let's find this chat. Okay, agents, new agents, here is the chat. And let's do this magic prompt that I specially prepared for you. It will just ask some questions and we just need to agree with them if we don't know what it does mean. Actually, sometimes when it deals with the console, it will ask, the console for your direct input. In this case, there is a choice that you can, as you see here, where you can choose with your up and down keys on the keyboard and proceed with the Enter key. As I told you, it sometimes asks for something. Right now it asks to choose visual them styles. So with keys up and down, you can choose something that sounds okay for you and press enter. So when it finishes, it shows you result. Let's switch to the file tree. You see that this is not a black box anymore. So there is also some components that we can test it with. I'm not sure it will work fine, but let's check it. To test it, we need to open terminal and run yarn dev. Here will be the URL that we can try to open in the browser. We see that it crashed, there is a bug, bad. You guessed right if you understand that the whole idea in this prompt is right, because it's precise about technologies, but it's far from ideal. No wonder. I also experiment sometimes and make mistakes. But let's be less naive and more thoughtful. This prompt violates two the most important rules. First, do not make AI think about too much entities, read nulls, at a time. I have a video about it with Lovable. And the second, do not make AI guess for you. So let's start from scratch with real prompts. Real magic prompts will look like this. Open agents, create new agent, and add the first magic prompt with exact action orders and with short, precise actions like versions of libraries and exact libraries you are going to make it use. I switch back to folders to see the project structure and what's going on with the files. Actually, here is the trick with the action confirmation I do. Sometimes, in some cases, if you aren't careful, the AI can run some malware downloaded from the internet or install wrongly named package with some backdoor or something like that. So they propose you to confirm every action initially because they need to you be responsible for any harm it can produce this way. But in most cases, if you do something simple, there is no risks. The only thing I can suggest is to have, if you don't have hands-on development experience, at least on middle level, it is better to have some kind of a separate notebook to tinker with vibe coding. Sometimes it asks for something like this, proceed. So we see that it created the application. So now it tries to style it. If you look at here. So it basically styled it and it looks nicer. So, but let's make it really lovable. Actually, sometimes it runs the server itself and it is quite usable, but we need to understand that it doesn't happen always. So you need to be able to open terminal, find this terminal that is run by cursor, and if it is not run by cursor, just stick with this command yarn dev, and so it will run the server for you. If you want to stop your server, press Ctrl C here and it will stop it. It's important to be able to work with terminal, at least this way, otherwise you won't be able sometimes to run or check what cursor does with it. So let's proceed with the next prompt. The next prompt is required to make your application support modern customizable UI libraries. So let's run it. Actually, this is the most complicated part because Tailwind CSS, despite its spread and wide usage, it's still tricky to set it up and configure, and then you see that the cursor is also struggle with it. And I believe when it runs your application, we won't see any successful result from the very beginning. You see, we see the error, and it looks like it also sees the error. Okay, we see it runs the application. It believes that it's working. We can check it. There is this error. So let's copy it and ask it to fix it. You can also open it in its terminal. It will be visible here. So there is also the way to copy it here and paste it here for fix. The most important part, do not forget to ask it to fix it. Otherwise, it will just suggest you how to fix it. I see the problem. Despite my advice, even in the prompt to install Tailwind CSS v3, it installed Tailwind CSS version 4 and it will try to figure it out and fix it. You and I can say that the styles aren't applied. So as I guessed, there is a problem with Tailwind CSS version 4, so let's ask it. It's almost working. We see another error. It will try to test it itself. We just need to allow it. Actually, it believes it fixed it, but it's not right. Actually, it is the most complicated part of all this story. Probably this is exactly what you pay for when you use Lovable. But actually, to fix it, you just need some persistence. And that's it. So we see, we have already modern looking testing application. It tries to test it itself, but we already see that it's working. So we can move forward with another prompt. With the next prompt, we will make it to look really modern, installing one of the most popular UI libraries. You must notice that I don't only ask it to install the library, I ask it to rework the example with this library, and I also ask it to check if it's working. It's quite important to do it this way. So we see that it finishes with the most important part, placing the implementation with the library components. Yeah, we see the demo using Shadsin UI. So it almost looks lovable. Let's move on. But to be able to develop real application, you need to add some final technical thing. You need to make your user able to navigate from screen to screen. We need to add so-called routing. We can do it with the following prompt. And you see, I also not just asking to add the library, I also ask it to implement an example when the router will allow to switch between different screens. And I force it to use ShadCN UI components to allow user to switch between screens. Router implementation is also a little bit tricky, but we know what to do with the error. So let's proceed with the fix. As I told, router fixing is much simpler, and there is a way to switch between pages right now with the router. Actually, right now we are ready to start developing our application using Cursor. Right now you have so-called boilerplate for the app, and when you have it, you can start telling Cursor what you need to code with it. Let's test it with the following prompt, but be aware that the following prompt is not optimal, but it's needed to demonstrate that we can proceed the lovable way, but with the more control of what's going on here. As usual, my lovely example of time tracking app. Let's see if it can make some lovable example of time tracking app. So I believe that's it. But no, there is an error. Sometimes to see the error we need to open the browser console. Copy it from here. I forgot to ask it to fix it. So we have a time tracking app that looks the same way we can get from Lovable. There is ways to start and stop time tracker. It's even working. And switch between pages. Actually, I can say we have got something lovable out of Cursor. Of course, Cursor looks a little bit more scary than Lovable, but it gives you much more freedom. The only thing you need to do to use it the same way you use Lovable is to ask your tech friend or ChatGPT or Google about the libraries you need to install and use to code your idea. In return, you get an opportunity to write proper frontend and backend without limits and tools and with full control of what's going on. It means slower degrading application code, the cost of features will rise much slower, and more capabilities to use, like development of complex API and backend logic that is hidden from the user. If you want to learn more about how to vibe code a secure server with some live coding tool like Cursor, just ask me in the comments. See you next time and happy vibe coding!